Am I the antagonist for refusing my partner's decision even though we don't live together? My boyfriend and I, both 24 years old, have been dating for 6 months. We do not live together and do not plan to in the near future because we both love our respective apartments and neighborhoods, and we are content with the way things are currently. However, we do spend more time together than apart, either at his place or mine. My boyfriend has been wanting a dog for a few years. He lives in a very small one-room apartment, 20 square meters. That, in my opinion, isn't suitable for a dog in the long term. My boyfriend agreed that it was not the right time to get a dog as he is not financially stable, and that he would reconsider it in a few years. However, last week he impulsively contacted a pug breeder to buy one. I find myself in a delicate position. We do not live together, so the decision of getting a dog belongs to him. However, since we spend most days of the week together at his place or mine, this decision will ultimately impact me and our relationship. We discussed my concerns about it, which I believe are valid because I, like everyone else, am a human and this sudden change was unexpected. I do not want him to bring his dog to my place. My boyfriend wants the dog to sleep in his bed. The issue is that his bed is a single bed, and we already have limited space, so adding a dog would make it even more cramped. I mentioned that I will not be taking the dog for walks as it is his dog, and currently, I do not feel emotionally prepared to have a dog in my life. He assured me he doesn't expect me to care for the dog, but the dog will be a part of our daily lives. I worry about how it might affect our relationship if I don't bond with the dog as he hopes I will. We have a healthy sex life. However, I know he is quite conservative, and having the dog in bed with us would make him uncomfortable. Considering my concerns, here is how I foresee the situation. I would likely spend more time at his place than mine, constantly carrying a bag of clothes back and forth. I would have uncomfortable nights and be sleep deprived due to the limited space in bed with a pug potentially snoring. Additionally, my boyfriend would have to wake up earlier to walk the dog, disturbing my sleep. The presence of the dog might also hinder our intimacy, as my boyfriend is uncomfortable with the idea of the dog witnessing our interactions. It doesn't sound like an ideal scenario for a healthy relationship. I expressed all these concerns to him, but they remained unanswered. He acknowledged the issues but decided not to get a dog after already signing papers at the breeders. He mentioned needing a few days to process it because it felt like a loss. I think using the term miscarriage is significant as it indicates that he viewed the dog as his child and understood that getting a dog would have been against my wishes. Now I feel guilty that his dream of having a dog cannot come true, at least for now. In this situation, am I the asshole? Am I the antagonist? It sounds like you've communicated your concerns clearly and respectfully to your boyfriend regarding the potential challenges of getting a dog at this time. It's important to prioritize open communication and mutual understanding in a relationship, especially when it comes to significant decisions like this. It's understandable that you want to ensure that both of your needs and boundaries are respected as you navigate this situation together. Am I the antagonist for keeping my kids away from my in-laws? Some background. I'm 32 years old, female, and married my husband, who is 36 years old, male, 11 years ago. He has always had a peculiar relationship with his family, mom, dad, younger sister. He is very quiet and keeps to himself. His sister passed away right after we had our first baby, so now all his parents have is him and our kids. However, after we had our 2 boys, they always make little remarks about my parenting. I'm not doing it how they did it, or if I told one of the kids, "No, you can't just eat chips," father-in-law would say, "Don't listen to mama, she's mean," stuff like that. I let it go when the kids were younger because they didn't know any different, but now my oldest is 7 and my younger just turned 5, and they definitely understand now. My older kid has some speech problems, which leads to him not understanding what teachers are saying or writing. He can read the words, he just doesn't understand the meaning. The teacher and speech therapist think we should hold him back in 1st grade. Technically, he is doing well enough to pass to the 2nd grade, but they are worried that he will be even more confused. So I said, okay, we will, and went forward with that. Anyway, this past weekend my in-laws came in. I guess my husband hadn't told his parents yet that we were keeping our kid back, and I made a comment about it. My husband has to leave for a year for work, and I said, "When you come back, the older kid will be in 2nd grade, that's crazy." My father-in-law looked at me funny and said, "No, he will be in 3rd. I said, "No, we are keeping him back." Both mother-in-law and father-in-law started, not yelling, but definitely raised voices, at me, saying I was being a bad parent, irresponsible, and dumb. And how could I do this? Never once bringing my husband into this. It was all on me, in front of my kids too. My husband just sat there on his phone, not saying anything. My father-in-law kept repeating, instead of him being 17 when he graduates, he will be 18. Not sure why that is a big deal. Finally, I had enough, so I calmly got up and left the room, didn't say anything. I don't know what was said, but when I got back, my in-laws left straight away for lunch, and when they got back, mother-in-law came right up to me and said, "We are leaving? We know you're mad at us." They weren't supposed to leave for 2 more days. It's a 12-hour trip back to their home. I felt bad because I know it's a long way, but happy because I was so upset that I was talked to like that in my own home, and my husband said nothing. It's been a couple of days, and I expected my mother-in-law to text or call and apologize for everything, but I've heard nothing. Father-in-law isn't one to apologize for anything. He thinks he's always right. I've talked to my husband about how horrible I think they treated me and him for not sticking up for me. He knows I'm not playing around. I told him I don't want his parents here while he is gone for a year. Does that make me a bad person? My kids are their only grandkids. It sounds like you're dealing with a challenging situation, and it's understandable that you feel hurt by the way your in-laws reacted. Your husband's support in these moments is crucial, so it's important to have an open and honest conversation with him about how you feel and what you need moving forward. Remember to prioritize your own well-being and boundaries while navigating family dynamics. Am I the antagonist for accepting to be the best man in my best friend's wedding after he didn't invite my new girlfriend? Let's establish a color code for clarity. My best friend will be referred to as blue, his bride as yellow, and my girlfriend as pink. We are all adults in our late 20s or early 30s. It all began a few days ago when blue and yellow came to my place and presented me with an invitation to their wedding, along with a bottle of wine and a note that read, "You have been with us since the very beginning. Would you do us the honor of being our best man?" I was thrilled and deeply touched. Blue and I have been best friends for 15 years. Even though we don't see each other often or communicate as much nowadays, our bond remains strong. We made a pact years ago that we would stand by each other's side on our wedding days. Therefore, I immediately accepted his offer. During our conversation, Blue mentioned that they needed to determine who I would be paired with. Yellow suggested a person I had never heard of before. Blue then explained the challenges they were facing with the guest list due to their large families and limited venue capacity. Many longtime friends were unfortunately not able to be invited. After parting ways, I took a closer look at the invitation and noticed there was no mention of a +1. I reached out to Blue to inquire about bringing my girlfriend, Pink, to the wedding. Regrettably, he informed me that they were already at full capacity, but mentioned that if any guests declined, Pink could attend. When I shared this news with Pink, she was deeply upset. We have been together for 5 months and have discussed future plans of living together, getting married and starting a family. Being in our 30s, we both value stability and a commitment to a long-term relationship. Learning that she was not invited to the wedding and that I would be paired with another woman made her feel embarrassed and unwelcome. I reassured her that I wasn't pleased with the situation either, but emphasized that it was not my wedding, and I couldn't decline Blue's request to be his best man. Pink expressed her hurt feelings, stating that I prioritized my friendship with Blue over her. This led to a significant argument between us. While I understand her perspective, I believe it's unfair to pressure my friend, who is likely already under stress, to change the guest list. Pink suggested that I could demand her invitation as a condition for being Blue's best man, but I found that approach manipulative. Another point Pink raised was her discomfort with the idea of having Blue as my best man in our future wedding when she wasn't even invited to his. However, I explained that Blue and Yellow are not acquainted with her, and it's reasonable that she wasn't included among their friends and family members. It would also be impractical for her to serve as a bridesmaid, especially to someone she has never met. Although the argument has subsided, Pink remains upset, feeling that I didn't advocate for her and don't care about her feelings. Her family supports her perspective. I haven't discussed this issue with my family or friends, as I prefer not to escalate the situation further. Am I the asshole in this scenario? You're definitely in a tricky situation here, balancing the expectations of your best friend, Blue, and your girlfriend, Pink. While it's understandable that Pink feels hurt and excluded, it's also important to remember that weddings can be complicated events with limited space and family dynamics at play. Ultimately, communication and understanding from all parties involved will be key in resolving this delicate issue. Am I the antagonist for refusing to let my estranged sibling and their partner stay in my and my spouse's vacation home? Before we got married, my husband used to live in a nice little house that he kept and added my name to the deed. We now use it as a vacation home, visiting only 2 or 3 times a year. Occasionally, we allow friends or family to stay there for a few days or a week. This arrangement has never been an issue for us. However, we were recently asked to let my estranged sister and her husband stay there, to which I declined. My husband is in complete agreement with my decision. My sister and I were very close growing up. My best friend throughout my childhood was a guy who is now married to my sister. I had a significant crush on him and was in love with him by the time we were 20. My sister also had a guy she was interested in, but not to the same extent. When I was 20, at a party, the guy my sister liked flirted with me. Even though I did not reciprocate and made it clear I was not interested, my sister was upset. She emphasized that we should not pursue anyone the other liked, a principle I agreed with. A year or 2 later, my relationship with my best friend took a turn. He began flirting with me, and I found myself returning his advances. Our interactions became more intimate, and we shared kisses, hinting at a shift in our friendship. Suddenly, I discovered that he and my sister had become a couple and were intimate. He mentioned wanting to keep his options open, while my sister expressed her strong feelings for him, hoping I would understand. I called her a hypocrite for her actions, especially after she got upset with me for the guy she liked flirting with me, despite my rejection, and our mutual promise not to pursue each other's crushes. She argued that it was different, but I told her I would never view her the same way again. They both asserted that I did not own him. I criticized him for leading me on when he desired my sister. Following this incident, my family supported me, particularly my other siblings. Since then, I have had no contact with my sister or her husband. My parents were the ones who initiated the request for accommodation for my sister and her husband. They were disappointed by my refusal. My other siblings firmly sided with me and were appalled by my sister and her husband's audacity to make such a request. My sister remarked that, at least, I could live out my dream of being married with children, as she cannot have any. She insinuated that I should set aside past grievances to assist them in avoiding homelessness. In response to my refusal, my sister and her husband insulted me, calling me a derogatory term, while even my parents criticized me for going too far in estranging myself by declining to help. Am I the asshole? Am I the antagonist? While it's understandable that past history can complicate current relationships, it's important to prioritize your own emotional well-being in situations like this. Your decision to decline the request for accommodation may have caused tension, but ultimately, setting boundaries to protect yourself is valid and necessary. Am I the antagonist for refusing to work with my ex on disciplining our kids in front of his and his wife's families? My ex-husband and I share custody of our 13-year-old son and 11-year-old daughter. We got divorced 9 years ago. My ex is now happily remarried for almost 3 years. We have an okay relationship with each other. We are mostly civil, but we are not close and do not see eye to eye on many things post-divorce. This is a conflict that stems from a couple of different things, but I really want to know what others think. So, I picked up my kids from my ex-husband's parents' house on Sunday. My ex-husband and his wife, along with the kids, all of my ex-husband's family, and many of his wife's family members were there. My ex-husband called me back to the yard to talk, and he told me that he had informed the kids they were grounded for a week with no phone or internet, and for another week, they would be doing acts of kindness for his wife. He punished them because during this family gathering, they decided to play a game where the moms and their kids teamed up. The kids refused to participate, stating that their mom, referring to me, was not there. When asked why, they said it was because their mom was not present. They were then told they would be teaming up with their other mom, and my kids questioned this, stating that my ex-husband's wife is not their mom. My ex-husband told them that she acts as their mom in their house, but my kids insisted that she is not their mom and would never be their real mom. My son even mentioned that they would need to call me to participate in a game involving a mom and kids. Everyone was upset that the kids spoke about their stepmom in that manner and for using the term real mom. My ex-husband asked them to apologize, but neither of them would. My son told his dad that he did not think he should apologize for telling the truth. I arrived about an hour later, and everyone was still upset about what had transpired. My ex-husband also informed me that his wife started to cry, and both kids rolled their eyes. He then told me that I needed to ground them for a week so that next time they were with him, they could focus on doing acts of kindness for his wife. I expressed that I did not see what the kids did as a punishable offense. My ex-husband insisted that it should have been clear who they were supposed to team up with. I argued that they were not wrong to say his wife is not their mom. He believed it should not matter, and that they should be more willing to team up with her. I questioned why they called it mom and kid instead of parent and kid. I made it clear that I would not ground them for this. My ex-husband was furious. The families were watching, and I could sense the disapproval as I left with the kids. My ex-husband has texted me multiple times throughout the week, stating that I was wrong, and that I made his wife feel terrible in front of their families. Am I the asshole? Am I the antagonist? It sounds like a tricky situation that requires some thoughtful consideration. While it's understandable that emotions can run high in blended family dynamics, it's important to remember that children navigate these relationships in their own unique ways, and forcing apologies may not always be the best approach. Am I the antagonist for telling my dad and his wife that I don't know what her daughter is into? My father got married 3 years ago to Josie. My sister's 15 years old and 13 years old, and I live with him full-time because our mother passed away. I am 17 years old, and I kind of stepped up because my father was never the most involved parent, and after my mother died, he still wasn't great with parenting stuff. He got married again 4 years after my mother died, and Josie and her daughter, 15 years old, moved in with us. So Josie is basically the same as my dad, not that involved. Actually, she seems less involved than my dad. But what I didn't know is that she expected me to take on her daughter as a sister and be there for her like I am for my sisters, which didn't happen. I don't hate her, but I see Josie's daughter as someone I'm in a forced roommate situation with, not family. I see Josie the same way. I don't do things for Josie's daughter like I do for my sisters. Sometimes I'll buy them something I know they'll like as a treat, normally one at a time since I'm only working weekends. My dad and Josie never checked on her daughter or acknowledged that we'd all gotten close. Then, Josie got a call from the school that her daughter was being bullied and going through a rough time. Josie decided to spoil her daughter and asked me what stuff her daughter liked was into. I didn't know, and I told her. She called my dad in and she asked me again, and I said I didn't know because I don't spend time with her daughter. They brought up the things I do for my sisters and I said, yeah, I do them for my sisters, not the random girl who lives with us. I said I don't do things for either of them, meaning my dad or Josie either. Josie freaked out and said I was supposed to treat them all the same and asked me why I hadn't taken her daughter on as my sister. I said because I already had 2 sisters and didn't need to worry about anyone else. I said they were the adults, and just because they thought they could get me to basically adopt Josie's daughter didn't make us a family. Josie called me names, my dad asked. Why wouldn't you embrace the girl? We really thought you'd do everything to make sure she felt wanted. I told them it wasn't my job. Josie still doesn't know what her daughter likes and I'm getting glared at every day now. Am I the jerk? It sounds like you've taken on a lot of responsibility at a young age, but it's understandable that you may not feel the same connection to Josie's daughter as you do to your biological sisters. It's important for your dad and Josie to communicate their expectations clearly and not assume that you'll automatically take on a parental role with her daughter without discussion. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.